So I just want to state this before I begin this Berserk volume review. I did not have time for a live reaction because of Christmas, holidays, family, stuff like that. So pretty much, I had no time to do a live reaction of Berserk. So once again, I want to say very sorry, Chibis. But I will tell you right now, this volume, I was hyped and flipping in my seat. It was just fucking ridiculous. It was just straight up ridiculous. And so, let's dive into this Berserk volume. For the most part, this volume, I'm just gonna start off and say 10 out of fucking 10 volume. Already. Just like, there's no reason. It's just, dude, the amount of setup and the meaning behind this volume in the last volume, it completely tops a lot of the previous volumes. Because these past two volumes are, like, kind of getting into the final endgame of the series. Honestly, as a manga reader, looking at these chapters, the endgame of the series seems like it is upon us. I mean, it's not that close because I know there's 37 fucking volumes, but I mean, we are getting into, I think, the second half of the series. The final, like, second half of the series, because you have to where Guts has now gotten his power up, pretty much, his Berserker armor, to where he can kind of become a demon. And along that, you have it to where Griffith is getting closer and closer to obtaining his dream. We do know Griffith wants to obtain a kingdom. He wants to have his own kingdom, a castle. And the thing is Griffith now has the princess. With this volume, he has the princess. And the emperor, the dreaded emperor that was technically introduced in this volume, we find out what the Emperor's actual goal was with the princess. He took the princess kind of hostage, or he kind of locked her up and imprisoned her, and he gave her an entire year to think over exactly what she wanted to do, and pretty much from that aspect, he was going to actually have her bear his child. And that would have actually forced it to where his bloodline would have been like royalty to the Midland Kingdom. So he wouldn't have actually have been, you know, someone that invaded and stole the kingdom. He would technically be royalty since he would have, you know, a bloodline attached to the Midland's bloodline. So, pretty much, with this aspect of, you know, this dude trying to do that, Griffith comes in and steals the princess back. And the thing was, with this aspect, it started making me think, wait a minute. Griffith's goal always was wanting to actually get a kingdom. We know this. He's still trying to obtain that, while destroying the world in the process, pretty much, by mixing all the astral layers together. Well, Griffith can do the exact same thing. We do know the princess is deeply in love with Griffith, and we do know for a fact she is. And since Griffith is trying to get his kingdom, the way I see it going is that the princess is going to bear Griffith's child. The thing is, Griffith having a child, that's scary as fuck. Like, I don't even want to imagine what Griffith's child most likely is like. I don't even want to imagine that at all. But, the way it's going, Griffith's getting closer and closer to his dream. Like, he is really fucking close. Like, as soon as he takes out this dreaded emperor and all that, he can technically be the Lord of Midland. Because, I mean, the princess, of course, is going to marry him and fall in love. I mean, you don't have the king there anymore to go against Griffith. And Griffith's technically the fucking god of the human world at the moment. So, pretty much, Griffith at the moment is closer and closer to his dream. And I wonder exactly if Griffith's actually going to be able to accomplish his dream. It'd be pretty cool, though, if, you know, Griffith accomplishes his dream and Guts comes in and fucks up his dream and destroys it. Oh, yes, that better fucking happen. That really, really better happen. After what Griffith did to Guts on Volume 13, and it still continues to do to Guts to this very day in this volume, it pisses me off. You want to know why? With this volume, it's not just the aspect of Guts getting this new armor that really is badass. It's extremely badass, but I'm more on the side of the sadness level. Like, I feel the tragedy in this, because it's cool seeing Guts have this power up to where he's strong. Don't get me wrong, it was kick-ass, it was badass, I was hyped. But then, looking at after the fight was done, and looking at Guts, his character, his personality, and how he truly is and where he stands at the end of this volume, it makes me very sad. Let me explain. I covered it a little bit in my last volume review, but I think I should really cover it now. Guts, in this volume, I really wanted to cry tears for Guts because of a couple of reasons. For one thing, I saw this a while back. You know I've seen the cover. Guts had white hair, and I was kind of curious exactly why Guts has white hair. I find out the reason for it. But it's not just the white hair. What gets me sad is his Guts is like maybe 24, 26. He's between the 20 and 26. That's his age. And he already has white hair. And then when we get a body shot of Guts in this volume, you see Guts' worn down body. Like, right here, you will see Guts' worn down body. All these scars all over his body. I mean, it's saddening. It's just like, if you go back to volume 1, even after the events of the eclipse, and you look at Guts, he doesn't nearly look this aged or worn. And so, seeing Guts as a character at this early young age, like 24, 25, 26, somewhere around in there, and he already looks like he's in his 40s, it's sad. It really is sad, because, I mean, Guts' his entire life has been fucked. Like, he hasn't had one really good year of his life. His years have been fucked. And it's sad because this dude continues to go through hardships more and more by the volume, and it continues to pile upon him. This armor pretty much scarred Guts. Like, it completely scarred his body all over. Even his face has more scars on it now, and it's sad. It's really, really fucking sad because it just, he's permanently like that. His body is that worn. And I love how Kentaro, as a mangaka, a writer of the series, and the way he draws it, he really shows the journey and the progression Guts has had as a character. Not just with his personality and his development, character development, but the way Kentaro ages Guts through the course of Volume 1 to this very point. The way we see Guts slowly age through the volumes. Like, when I was reading through the series, I never really realized how much Guts aged until I went back to a couple volumes. Even Volume 13 or 12. You go back there and you're like, oh my god, Guts looks completely different. Like, he looks young. And then you look at this, and Guts looks like he's an old man. A badass old man, but still. And he's not that old. So, the sad thing here is, what I'm trying to get at is when this is all said and done, and let's just even say, let's say Guts does magically live the events of this series, which I highly doubt. The way this series has been, the way it's been very tragic, and the way it's done, I'm willing to bet Guts will die at the end of the series. I'm willing to place money on it. I'm willing to bet up all my Berserk volumes, pretty much. Because it's obvious. There is no way. And let's just say Guts does survive, okay? Let's just say Guts does survive the events of Berserk, and he has a happy life after it. He won't have that long. He won't. Because the stress, the fatigue, his body, the way it is, how much he's been worn down, even having white hair at his age, the trauma he's experienced, he's not going to live a long life. I mean, even if he is a great warrior now, honestly, probably majority of his life has already been shaved off because of the torment he's had to go through the course of this series. So to see Guts as a character at the standpoint of the end of this volume as a scarred person, like he's scarred on the surface and the inside, it's tragic. It really is tragic. It makes me sad. Guts seriously has one of the saddest fucking stories I've ever seen in manga, because the way he carries himself through this series, I can really feel his emotions. Like, this one scene in this volume, let me try to find it. There's this one specific scene right at the end of this volume that really stood out right here. If you look right here, okay, you'll see, you know, Guts looking at his new companions. And then you look here, you see Casca smiling. And then you see Guts' eye. That one eye that Guts shows right there, that is enough to explain everything. If you've read Berserk and you know Guts' personality, that one look Guts gave Casca, that one panel, without even words, explains what was going on in Guts' mind. And that's powerful for Kentaro to design a character like Guts to do something like that. Because, I mean, Guts never would have thought he would have saw Casca smile again. He never would have thought he could actually see the sunset and not worry and stuff like that. It's tragic. So, moving off that, okay, let's just talk about the Berserker armor, okay? I want to move on to that now. Now that I've talked about the sad, tragic shit with Guts, I can move on to the epic hype shit. So, Guts, he literally became a demon. Like, he straight up became a demon. Like, he was a human demon. Like, I mean, I guess he's technically still human, but still the point of it is the armor made his fighting style into a demon. It was like he was demon itself. He was just ripping people fucking apart. And I'm actually kind of terrified to find out exactly how Guts would be if he really was a demon. I mean, imagine, just imagine in your mind right now, if Guts was to go to the God Hand and become a demon, imagine how powerful Guts would probably be. Because we clearly saw his demonstration of how powerful he is in this volume. But the thing was, as I said in my last volume review, most likely Guts is actually powerful than most demons, because since most demons, most of the apostles, pretty much are technically once humans, they still have that limiter in their brains to where they don't use 100% of their power because they technically were still humans. So Guts, since he's actually surpassed this limiter of humanity because of this armor, technically he could be considered more powerful than demons. And so he's probably stronger than the average demon, even though Guts was already kind of stronger than the average demon. Guts now most likely could fight on par with people like Zod, but in this state. Maybe. Just maybe. And that is really scary. It's really scary, but it's not just that. What this armor does, what it showcases, I was just scared. Like, no, I was awestruck. Like, I couldn't even realize what I was thinking or what I was looking at when I was reading the beginning first half of this volume. When I saw Guts slowly evolving or de-evolving into a fucking demon, like, when he was fighting, he was slowly getting more and more aggressive like a demon. Like, he wasn't even using his normal fighting style that we all know and love. He was progressing into a demon type fighting style, like a wild beast, or the Beast of Darkness's fighting style. Like, Guts was just insane. Like, you see this dragon dude, the Fire Dragon Knight guy, he breaks Guts' arm. You see Guts' arm spin completely around, and you see his freaking legs bent backwards, and you just see Guts dragging his fucking left leg on the ground, and his arm is like this, backwards. I'm like, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I was like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden you just see Guts' arm just twist back in his place. You just see it like do this, and you see blood spewing out of it. His leg twists back in place. You see blood spewing out. I'm like, oh my god. It just, the finding out like how scary this armor is just ridiculous. Because this armor, from what we find out, it actually pierces into Guts' skin. And it pierces his bones to force his bones back together that he shatters. Forces it back together to reinforce it. The armor literally enters Guts' body and puts his bones back together and holds him there. And then Guts can continue to fight like he's a normal, body. Like his arm can be twisted backwards, he'll spin back into place, and the armor will reinforce it. That's ridiculous. That's just straight up fucking ridiculous. And it's not just that either. Guts, with the limiters completely off of his brain, as I talked about in my last volume, I said most likely his bones would shatter. And we clearly get a display of that in this volume. When Guts is fighting, when he was using his fist and stuff, when he grabbed that Fire Dragon dude's fucking tail when he was coming at Guts, Guts stopped this giant-ass dragon's tail. This tail that is like half the size of my room would just coming at Guts. Guts stops it with his bare hands. A human. I don't even think we can consider Guts human in that mode. I don't think so. But whatever you want to call that mode besides the Berserker armor, Guts stopped his attack with his bare hands. And then you see his ribs and arm bones shatter. Like, they shatter completely when Guts does this. And then you see the armor fix it back up, and he continues to fight. And as we know, that armor allows Guts to not feel any pain whatsoever. So he will just continue to be in a mindless rage, fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting without stop, until he literally just drops fucking dead. That is the last thing that would happen. Like, this dude, Guts, okay? In that mode, honestly, if it wasn't for Shurike, okay, if she wasn't there, everybody would be fucked. Dude, just straight up. Because Guts in that mode, he would fight to the death, and he would most likely win. I'm not joking. Either he is going to die, but he is going to take out a fuck ton of enemies. Because let's be real here. Guts has done 100 demon slaying, as we know, 100 man slaying. He has been a monster for the course of this series. And even demons questioned if he was a demon while he was a human. And then you give Guts this, where he kind of pretty much is a demon at this moment. Nobody can stand almost in Guts' way. Honestly. Unless you forcefully stop him and pin him down with a witch or something with magic. That's the only thing. Like, the big question is, I wonder about, actually, I'm kind of curious about, can the armor be broken? That is a really interesting question. I know the armor's like a fetish, and it's like, you know, like a magical cursed armor, pretty much. But I'm curious, can the armor be broken? And if it can be broken, here's the question I actually am wondering. Let's say, for instance, like a demon was strong. Let's just say Zod versus Guts, okay? This is hypothetical, okay? Don't take this real. Let's say, for some reason, Zod completely destroys the armor, and he rips off Guts' leg with the armor attached, okay? He rips off Guts' leg or something. Would the armor try to reform back and put Guts' leg back on? Because we do know the armor tries to repair Guts' body. So, is it possible if the armor was to get broke in pieces, it would try to reform the body back together? Is that possible? That's a big question I have right now, because I don't know if the armor can be broken, but if it can, I wonder if, like, Guts was to lose, like, his limbs, would they try to come back and reattach themselves? Interesting. Very, very interesting if you think about it like that. Now, another thing, too. Guts also, the power of what Guts was doing also brings up, like, his power level. Like, you can actually see what type of power standpoints he has as a person. For instance, the Fire Dragon dude has this crystallish type armor on, okay? He has this, like, crystal armor. And the thing is the dude stated that the armor he has all over his body is way stronger than steel. Way stronger than steel. And that in of itself is incredibly powerful for the standards of Berserk, okay? A regular human breaking fucking steel is kind of scary as hell, okay? Let's just be real here. And this dude, this Fire Dragon dude is telling me that the freaking armor on him is stronger than steel, and Guts shattered or cracked his armor. And it's not just that either. I mean, Guts' speed has also been increased. Like, there was a panel in this volume to where you see Guts when this, like, regular demon, apostle demon, he's, like, talking and transforming. Guts kills him in mid-conversation. Like, he zips up, he stabs him in the back, he jumps on top of his head, cuts him, and then he jumps off and swings his, like, a freaking giant-ass sword, dragon slaying sword, straight through his body. And this was all done probably in a fraction of a second or 2 seconds. It was just extremely fast. And so, it just shows you, even though Guts has this increased strength, he also has increased speed. And it's just like, whoa. So, yeah. I'm awestruck by the armor. The armor is just incredibly OP, but it definitely has its drawbacks. Massive drawbacks. Because what it did to Guts' body is not a good thing. Because once the fighting is said and done, it's technically still not done for Guts, because we find out after that entire ordeal with Guts fighting, it took days for this armor to detach from Guts' body because it was pierced into his flesh. And so, even after Guts fights in this armor, if he breaks bones, the armor won't necessarily come off to let him close his wounds. And so, he was sitting there bleeding for days. Suffering. And the incredible part about this is as we found out last volume, Guts should have went unconscious from that slash. That slaying gave him. That big slash on the chest and the back. He should have went unconscious because of how painful that was. Well, he didn't. But in this volume, we find out Guts was under so much pain because of the armor that he was actually passing out from in and out of consciousness. And that in of itself, just hearing that alone, that one piece of dialogue makes me want to shit a brick, because Guts going in and out of consciousness because of pain, I don't even want to know how painful that was, because let's be real here, if that pain alone for what he got from the god hand on his chest was to knock him unconscious for days, and he was awake, I mean, you're telling me now he got knocked unconscious because of whatever the armor did to him? That in of itself is probably hell. Living hell. And the sad thing is Guts was going in and out of consciousness. He wasn't permanently out through the pain. He was still waking up with the pain. So, if Guts has to deal with this every time he uses this armor, the armor is very, very bad. And I'm curious, did the armor really cause Guts' hair to go white? Like, I mean, I know it did, but was it because Guts was being lost into his odd, his insanity with his, you know, like, Hell Beast or his Beast of Darkness form when he was wrapped around in that fire in this volume? Was it because of that the reason why he lost some of his hair, like why it turned white? Or was it because of the armor, aging him or something? Speaking of that, I want to actually mention something. Supposedly, from what Shurike brought up with this volume, is that the previous owner of the Berserker armor died because of the armor. And it's already kind of obvious by now that the last owner of the Berserker armor was Geisric, or the Skeleton Knight. It's obvious. And so, from rumors, from what Shurike was told, was that this armor killed the previous owner. And it literally caused it to where the person died from blood loss, because he was fighting to the very end, his bones shattered, and then he kept bleeding, and then he died. And so, if that really was Geisric, okay? Let's just say here, if that really was Geisric, you're telling me Guts might suffer the similar fate that maybe the Skeleton Knight might have? Like, turn into whatever he is? That's a possibility. It's just a straight-up possibility. And I wonder if that's exactly what direction Kentaro is trying to make. The reason why is because clearly there is a lot of similarities between the Witch Mistress and the Skeleton Knight, along with Shurike and Guts. There is a lot of similarities between those four. For instance, Guts can be considered Geisric, and then you have it to where Shurike can be considered the Mistress, you know, her master, pretty much, the Witch. So, there's a lot of similarities there. And judging by the way they look so similar, I'm willing to bet Kentaro is going to make it to where maybe Guts might fall into something maybe similar to the Skeleton Knight. Like, he might become like a demon, or whatever the Skeleton Knight is, a fairy, or some form of other creature. We know he's not technically an apostle. He's something else, because we do know Puck said he was something else. He sensed him like he kind of sensed like a fairy or something, so we know for a fact he's not necessarily a demon. But there's still the question that we have to wonder is that going to happen to Guts too? Oh yeah, we also get a 1 month time skip in this volume. For instance, 1 month passes after the Berserker armor ordeal, and clearly it shows that Guts is still weakened. He's shriveled up, he's lost weight, you see the battle scars, and he's also still shaking after his battle. So he is not even completely healed after a month later, but which kind of makes a logical sense. I mean, any normal man should not even be able to get up after what Guts just went through. So, Guts, I guess, can kind of consider himself lucky for him to only be a month and resting. So, Guts is lucky. So, moving past that, I want to dive into the other segments of this volume. Now that I've gotten past Guts and all that, I want to talk about Farnese. Farnese, at the end of this volume, actually wants to become a witch. Interesting. So, the witch hunter wants to become a witch, and she's going to become the apprentice to Shurike. Very interesting. That's pretty much the basics of what happened at the end of this volume, so it just once again shows you the development Farnese has really had. It does. Moving past that, the next thing I want to talk about is the Band of Hawks versus the demons, or the Kushan. Now, the Emperor. We see the Emperor's apostle form in this volume, and we kind of find out his overall angle of this volume. The Kushan is led by a demon king, the Emperor. And this Emperor, he has been an Emperor for a very long time, and he controls most of the known world. And he does not want to give up this power, even if it is God itself. And so he literally is going to fight against God itself, pretty much Griffith, to keep his throne. So, the Demon King, the Emperor, is selfish. Very, very selfish, and we find out exactly what he was trying to accomplish, what his goals are, and he is about to have a fight with Griffith, the Band of Hawks. So, it's building up to be something very interesting, because demons versus demons, that sounds really kick-ass. Like, oh shit. Because in this, we get a little bit of a taste of demons versus demons. Like, we see these gator monsters, and these, like, ogre-ish-looking monsters. Like, I know they're not exact ogres, I think they're called Daka. That's it, Daka. And these creatures called the Daka are actually born from pregnant women. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, ooh. Like, okay, so the Kushan army, the Emperor has stitched up apostles actual apostles. He stitched them up. Like, I saw stitches with all these apostles. They were stitched up together and shit, put together as if, like, they're a massive flesh, and they were taking pregnant women and putting them inside of the apostles' bodies, like, dumping them in the bodies, and then the, like, pregnant child inside of the women would actually break out, destroy out of the stomach, and you will see these Daka spawn and flow out. So, technically, the Kushans are making a demon army through pregnant women. Just like, oh my god. I mean, he's enslaving apostles and forcing them to turn more people into demons, pretty much. So, that's pretty fucked up. Just like, oh my god. So, we have demon army. Like, he's spawning demon armies. Just like, god. I wonder exactly how the gator monster was formed, or those elephant monsters. Like, dude, they look badass. Like, just straight up badass. Like, the freaking gator monster and also the elephant freaking demon thing, they actually look very similar to some of the creatures in Dark Souls, too. They really do. But I do know, technically, Dark Souls took designs from, you know, Berserk, but, I mean, there's just so many designs that recently that has been a lot of similarities to Dark Souls, so it's just kind of crazy. So, I think that's pretty much that I wanted to cover. Let's see, we had the entire bit with how the princess gets saved with Zod, and, you know, Griffin comes and saves her, and Zod flies off in the distance with the bed. And I think that pretty much covers everything I need to cover with this volume. If I missed anything, I'm very sorry about that, but I mean, I think I got everything. So, you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.